Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our afternoon session on the joint resource recovery. So I will actually call for a roll call. Emma, if you want to do the roll call of everybody, you can record that.
Okay. Director Jackman,
Hello, I'm here.
Director Tierney,
Present.
Director Vandenberg,
Yes.
Director Watson,
No.
okay, Alt Director Snake,
Here.
Director Newell,
Present.
Director Cunningham,
Yes, present, thank you.
Director Popov,
I am present.
Director David Dahl,
Present, thank you.
Director Hanegraaff,
I'm here, thanks.
Director Weatherhead,
Here.
Alt Director Vogel,
I'm here.
Councillor Houghton,
Present.
Director Hewitt,
Present.
Director Zelznick,
Present.
Director Page,
Present.
Director Casely, Director Casely, and Director Lockwood,
Present.
Director Main,
Present.
and Director Buller.
Present.
Well, thank you, Emma. We've got a quorum, and we're moving along with the tradition of acknowledgement and respect to Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we are meeting today. And I called the meeting to order at 1:01. And a motion to adopt the agenda with any additions. Director Weatherhead.
I'd like to add a late item. Discussion on the acceptance of the RDCK Vishinya landfill of do I have to read this all? Is this
I will read it for you. If you
Yeah, I can read it. No, it's not a problem. It's just not what I want. Okay. Discussion on the acceptance of the RDCK Vishinya landfill of 50 to 75 tons of carcasses potentially affected with avian influenza.
Okay, thank you. Now, procedurally, to add it to the agenda and have a discussion on this item, we need 2/3 majority from the directors that are present.
Can I second the motion first?
No, we have to get it on the table first. So, all in favor? Online, we have a majority. So now we have the motion on the table. And if you want to speak to the motion, we will place it on the agenda just before public time. Okay. To process, Dr. Cunningham?
Yes, I'd like to, at this time, like another item added to the agenda, a further item, and the item is that the proposed resolution is that we communicate with Health Canada regarding ostriches and bird flu.
Okay, have you got that, Emma?
Communicate with Health Canada
Regarding ostriches and bird flu.
Okay, to get that item added to the agenda, we again need 2/3 majority vote. So all in favor to have that item added to the agenda? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Online, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we need, okay, so I've counted 10. Opposed? Anybody opposed? 1, 2. Online? So we have a majority. There are items added to the agenda. And that item will be placed before or after Director Weatherhead's item. Okay. So a motion to adopt the agenda with the two late items proposed. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. The agenda is adopted with those two items. Now let me just record that. We have received the minutes from the joint resource recovery minutes have been received. Any comments on those minutes? Checking online. No comments. They're received. I have Manager Wolf monitoring chat for me, so just give me a second or two to take a look at chat, see if there was anything in chat that I missed.
There is a comment from Diana Lockwood, Director Lockwood. It is really hard to hear what is being said by directors other than the chair. So I don't know if you have background noise issues or if we are speaking too low, but that's the comment you made in chat.
Okay, well, I don't know how to resolve that issue, but if you can speak up a little bit louder for the directors that are here, so Director Lockwood can hear you and other directors that are online. And if it's still a problem, Director Lockwood, please let us know and we'll see what we can do. I want to see a thumbs up. I didn't see a thumbs up on that. Gotcha, thank you. Okay, so we're going to item 3.1, financial plan amendment, City of Castlegar Organics grant funding. And there's a motion on the floor, a recommendation on the floor. But first we'll start with Matt to make a little bit of a comment on it or do a presentation. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, through the chair. Yeah, just a few brief things to summarize, no formal presentation, but just that to note that the financial plan amendments required to meet our pass-through funding obligations to the City of Castlegar as part of the Clean BC Organics Infrastructure and Collection Program. And so this was for the establishment of the City of Castlegar's Green Bin program, which they rolled out August 2022. So these would be all of their eligible expenditures that were claimed to the province were the pass-through funder. So that claim has been processed and approved. We are currently sitting on the money, sitting with the funds that were paid by the province. And as part of our contribution, where we agreed to cover a portion of the 1/3 funding of the fund of the total value of the claim, up to a certain value, as stipulated in our grant funding agreement with the City of Castlegar to pass through these funds. So the total value is the $615,428, which is the money received from the province, plus our contribution of $104,310, for the total of $719,738. And so that's the value that is being included in the financial plan amendment so that we can meet that pass-through funding obligation. There is a note in the report just that the indicating the reason why it was missed in the 2025 financial plan. That was partly due to an administrative delay getting the grant funding agreement signed with the City of Castlegar. So we weren't actually able to pass through these funds until we had that agreement signed with the city, which we only just did in March of this year. As well, the value is different than what was in the 2024 financial plan. Due to the claim that the City of Castlegar submitted being higher than what we initially forecast in the grant application way back in 2021. However, the sort of total value of the claim is still well within the budget of the grant, and our contribution is the same as what was in the initial application to the funder. So that's the financial plan amendment, value, and the accounts are within the report there. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Matt. Before we go to questions on it, I'd like to get this item on the floor, so do I have a mover for the recommendation? Director Page, seconder, Director Main. It's on the floor now. And any questions? Seeing no questions online and no questions in the room? All in favor? Anybody opposed? No opposition, motion's carried. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is HB isometer drilling in central landfill ground well installation contract award. So there's a report on that. Elaine, will you give us a brief overview of your report before we go to the motion?
Of course. Thank you. And through the chair, hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Following completion of the closure works at the HB tailings facility, the Independent Tailings Review Board and the engineer of record both recommended additional piezometer instrumentation to monitor water pressures within the dam. There's a figure of the recommended new piezometer locations on page 3 of the report. The 2024 dam safety review that we'll be presenting at probably the next meeting did note one deficiency at the site, which was uncertainty within an inferred weak zone within the original dam core material. So the installation of these new piezometers also provides us with the opportunity to collect in situ subsurface geotechnical data across various layers within the dam. So that will allow for better delineation of this weak zone and hopefully allow us to completely address that one deficiency. The drilling and instrumentation program will install 8 new vibrating wire piezometers in 5 new drill holes, but we're also wanting to install new vibrating wire piezometers in 5 existing standpipe units that are currently installed on the site to improve data acquisition. Additionally, the 2024 landfill hydrogeo report recommended a new monitoring well be installed to assess potential groundwater impacts near the septic receiving area. Combining that installation with the HB drilling program could create efficiencies and mobilization costs. To move these 2 projects forward, we completed an RFQ to secure a drilling contractor to complete the work. We added the central well as an optional item to that RFQ. And for financial considerations within that S187 budget, there's currently $76,000 for the HB drilling work and $20,000 for the central monitoring well. We received 4 bids as part of that RFQ process, with results outlined in the table on page 4. Unfortunately, the lowest cost bidder, Sonic Edge, did not respond to our technical clarification requests, so they were excluded from further consideration. Drillwell Enterprises had the second lowest and most technically sound quote that we received at $68,726 for the HB work and $11,469 for the central well. So those are both below the available budget. Contech was the third lowest cost bidder at $82,393 for only the HB portion, as they did not include a price for the central landfill well. So that bid is $6,393 over the available budget, and awarding to Contech is provided in the report as the only alternative option. So based on Drillwell's bid cost and their geotechnical drilling and piezometer installation experience, as well as their responses to our technical questions, staff are recommending awarding both scopes of work for the HB piezometer drilling and the central monitoring well to Drillwell at a total cost of up to $80,196. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your report. And that gives the directors a brief overview on your report. So to get the agenda item on the table, I'd like somebody to move the recommendation. Director Newell, a seconder, Director Main. It's on the table. Any questions?
Yeah, just in terms of the science and when installing these expensive devices to monitor the travel of water, who sets the standard for how many you ought to be installing in a general area? We've already got at least 3 that I can see with the information here. What's the advantage of installing more?
Anybody from staff want to respond to that?
Sure, through the chair. So there's no definitive standard. Right now, we don't have instrumentation on either of the dam abutments. So where the dam meets the sidewalls of the valley. So we are kind of lacking in instrumentation in those areas. And that's especially important, at least on the east side where the pond was previously located, which we backfilled. Additionally, having extra information about what's going on within various layers of the dam will provide us better dam safety response in terms of it's called a trigger action response plan. So it will allow us to respond better to changing conditions within the dam. The Independent Tailings Review Board and the Engineer of Record both recommended that we proceed with this work, and I feel like it's a reasonable amount of instrumentation for the type of information that we're needing.
Mental. Thank you for the explanation. Are you then confident that these will be all that is required to give you the data and the information to determine the pressures look down the road?
Through the chair, yes, I'm fairly confident that this will be sufficient.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Director Smenk?
Thank you to the chair, to the staff. You said it would enable you to be able to respond. What is the response if these are too high?
So, through the chair, the trigger action response plan that will be developed has kind of 4 tiers. Green, which is we're in the clear. Yellow is, slightly increased monitoring and oversight. Orange is let's do some additional on-site investigations, not necessarily subsurface investigations, but get the engineer out and let's do a full detailed inspection. And then typically in these plans, there's a red zone as well, but we've done a preliminary analysis after closure works, and there's no conceivable condition that would ever tip us into the red condition. So that's been excluded from our triggers thus far.
Further, if I may, if there's no conceivable concern that it's going to go out of red, then why are we doing it?
Through the chair, it is a regulatory requirement to have trigger action response plans in our operations manual for the site. It's also a Canadian Dam Association dam safety guideline requirement.
Yeah, and I was wondering if we each dam has to have a report, if I may, through.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a dam safety report that we could be shared with the directors currently?
Through the chair, yes, we have just completed the dam safety review report, which is it's typically required every 5 years under the regulations. But because we just went through this major closure project, the province granted us a variance to extend that timeline. The last one we did was in 2014. We've just finished the 2024. I'm expecting the final stamped copy this week sometime. And then the plan was to present that to the committee at likely the next meeting.
Again, it's further to staff. What I'm really trying to ascertain here, and that is, if it's going to cost $80-some thousand to do the study, if the solution is 110, I'd rather do the solution rather than for another study. I mean, if the way to put this to bed is plausible, then I'd like to know if that's an option.
Okay, Manager Wolf.
If I may. So everything we are doing here is based on certain assumptions. The pointed out risk by both our consultant or a mining engineering company and the Independent Tailings Review Board is that we know very little about the core of this dam. We know there was at some point a wooden dam. We don't know exact location. We don't know certain filling conditions, what kind of soils were used. The dam was created in various stages, and it is that unknown condition in the core of the dam that we are concerned about, and that we can at this point only make assumptions about. And Elaine, you jump in when you feel I'm not reflecting it correctly. But that's part of the drilling program, to try to understand better what's happening in the core, and if there is a condition that where we underestimate the risk from this dam.
So thank you for the explanation. We've got the item on the floor. Any further questions? Director Cunningham, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I recall that a number of years ago, when the dam was full, we had a crack form and just about had a dangerous kind of thing happen. And since then, of course, we've gone through and lowered the levels of the dam. Could you, in a nutshell, remind me exactly what we did after the dam, after that just about catastrophic occasion, step by step, because I really don't have my memories, and I'd like to know exactly where we are now.
Thank you, Director Cunningham.
Elaine would respond.
Elaine, can you respond to that?
I can, yes. Through the chair. So immediately after the near failure in 2012, we lowered the reservoir level. So we lowered the amount of water that was being stored in the pond behind the dam. We then had a very large team of geotechnical engineers overseeing the kind of construction repairs of the slough area. We then permanently lowered the spillway to keep the pond level at that lower amount. We then upgraded the lower portion of the spillway. I guess also in 2012, sorry, I missed a step. We repaired the pipe that caused the slough in the first place. And then kind of around 2014 is when we did that first dam safety review. And part of that was looking at the slough and the history of the dam construction. And then in 2015, we had to do it was a ministry requirement for all tailings dam owners as a result of the Mount Polley failure. And that's kind of what triggered us down this pathway to closure. So starting in 2016, we started the kind of preliminary assessment for options of what to do with this facility in the long term, culminating in us completing those construction works in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, how much water is behind the dam at this point?
Through the chair, there's currently no water impounded behind the dam any longer. It does hold back groundwater within the tailings, but there's no actual ponded water anymore. There are now 3 connected channels that direct surface water flows across the tailings that are lined. So there's no longer any interaction of the surface water with the tailings material.
Another supplementary.
One more supplemental. Go ahead.
I really appreciate that. Is there a time when we can just say, thank you, it's done, and walk away from it? Or hand it to somebody else? Because it's not supposed to be ours in the first place.
Yeah. Go ahead, Elaine, if you have a response for that.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. So just recently in April of 2024, the ministry updated the Mines Act and the Health, Safety and Reclamation Code. And for the first time, they've added a condition in there for tailings facilities that have gone through closure and achieved stability can apply for a reduction in monitoring frequencies or a complete removal of obligations under the Mines Act permit. So that's going to be something that we're starting to explore with the ministry hopefully this year, just with some preliminary discussions of what that process might look like, as there's currently no guidance on it, but it's certainly something that we are interested in exploring.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the help.
Yeah, thank you. Any further questions? Check it online. No further questions. Got a motion on the table. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing no opposition, carried. Did you oppose it?
There was one on the screen.
Oh, Director Lockwood, one opposition. Do you want, we don't record it in committee, so it'll be on the board table tomorrow, so you'll have the opportunity to record your opposition if you so choose. So the next item on the agenda is 3.3 Creston Landfill and Compost Facility Operations and Maintenance Contract Extensions. And Nathan, yeah, you can maybe open on that one and give us a little bit of an overview.
Sure. Thank you. Through the chair. Staff brought a report to the March 19th Joint Resource Recovery Committee, which outlined the results of the Creston Landfill and Compost Facility RFP. As all proposals were over budget, the board made the decision to cancel the procurement. The current contracts are set to expire on September 30th of this year. As there's less than 6 months remaining in the current contracts, extensions are needed to provide adequate time to complete another RFP process. The aim is to commence a new contract in the spring of 2026 so that the chosen contractor has time to prepare for the new contract and does not need to mobilize to the site during winter months. Staff has proposed an 8-month extension to the current contract with GFL Environmental, which they have accepted. The current contracted services budget for the Creston Landfill is not adequate to fund the contract extension. Staff is proposing to increase the contracted services account by $101,435 and decrease contribution to reserves account by the same amount. The contracted services budget for the Creston Compost Facility is adequately funded for continued operations. Staff is requesting that the board approve extending the landfill and compost operations contracts with GFL for a term of 8 months and amending the 2025 to 2029 financial plan for East Waste Services to accommodate the landfill contract cost.
Thank you. We have two recommendations, and I think we should deal with them separately rather than combine them. Director Jackman.
Yeah, I'll move the first recommendation for discussion.
Okay, and a seconder? Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. Discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we thought we would see a different result, maybe with different contractors had approached us and looking at whether or not there's opportunity, because people understand how a landfill operates. It's a fairly tight, well-operated site, I think. Volumes, everything's well understood. This is not our expected result by any means. So we need the time, is the way I feel, to look at a lot of options, a wide range of options. Manager Wolf may want to speak to it, but I think this is well worth extending this contract, paying this amount, and coming up with maybe totally different approaches to managing this landfill.
Thank you, Director Jackman. Director Vanderberg.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So when I read the motion, so essentially, in order for us to do 8 more months of extension, which buys us time to be able to bring in some more, put out another request for proposal, that's going to cost us $101,000 to extend that 8 months. In the motion, you're asking for as well to approve an amendment to each year for the 2025-2029 financial plan for refuse disposal. So do I read that to ensure that we add the $101,000 for each of the consecutive years going forward to 2029? Do I read that correctly? And if so, why would we do that if we're going to be looking at an RFP in spring?
Okay, thank you for your question. And I think Director Jackman had a concern here or whatever, and I didn't ask staff for a response on that one. So we'll go with Director Jackman's concern first. Do you have a response for Director Jackman's concern?
Well, there's a wide range of options. I think they'll need to be addressed at East Resource. There's a wide range. I'm happy to wait for East Resource to address those options. I do appreciate Director Vandenberg's comment because we're we're signaling future increase in cost, whereas our anticipation was not that. And that's what we gotta talk about.
Okay.
Anticipated current and future costs.
Thank you, Director Jackman. Vanderberg, do you want to, can you respond to Director Vanderberg's concern?
Oh, you wanna?
Through the chair, in speaking with the CFO, he asked if this was going to be an ongoing cost, and I said at the current time, this is our current knowledge. So until we do the RFP process, we don't know what future costs will be. So the 2026 budget preparations would be adjusted with future years. So his recommendation was to apply it to all the years in this current financial plan. I don't know if there's an ability to do something different.
And a supplemental?
I'd like to make an amendment to that, and essentially, and it would be in the and further, the board approve an amendment in the year of 2026 financial plan, period. Not 2025 to 2029, just talking about 2026. Because the telegraphing is, even at that, it's telegraphing.
It would be, through the chair, it is 2025 that we need to make that adjustment. So 2026 on, we can adjust.
So you have some month in 26, right?
Oh, okay, sorry.
So just a staff response to your amendment, so make sure we've got it right.
Okay, so if I can try to summarize it. So your intention would be that we show only the increased dollar amount for the 8-month extension in 25 and 26 until end of May or whatever that contract term is, and the dollar amount resulting from that, but no further increases beyond that in the future years. In the 2025 financial plan, which encompasses 5 years.
If I may, through the chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, that is correct, because until we, through our effort of getting the information of the RFP back, we'll be dealing with this again. So there's no point in telegraphing that, as Director Jackman pointed out, that we have this money set aside. Woohoo! Let's make sure we wrap that up.
Okay, thank you. So we need a seconder for the amendment?
I will second that.
So we've got a seconder. Now we're open for discussion on the amendment only. No discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment? Anybody opposed? Amendment carried. Now the recommendation, the only change in there, and I'll go back to Vanderberg, was for 2025 and 2026. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. If I may, and further, that the board approve an amendment to the year, to each year to 2026 financial plan.
Okay. So have we got that, Emma?
Sorry if I may, Chair.
Yes.
We just need to be careful with the rest of the wording because the dollar amount changes from year to year, right?
Okay,
so,
thank you for that.
Right, because we have only the 5 months in 2026, and I don't know what the 100,000 reflects in 2025.
Through the chair, I can check with Nathan that 101 is for 2025.
Yep. Okay. So then we probably we could even leave it at that and just amend the 2025, the year 2025 in the 2025 financial plan for $100,000 and not deal at all with subsequent years. Because otherwise we need to figure out the dollar amount in 2026, the cost, the incremental cost till end of May for that increased cost of that contract when that ends, and then end that increased cost at that stage. Do I see that right?
So we do have, there are complications here, and we cannot expect staff to do the calculation to be exact on your proposed amendment. So, Director Page, go ahead.
I just friendly offer that if the wording was changed to approve an amendment, strike to each year, just to approve an amendment to the 2025-2029 financial plan and the rest, like the intent is clear. Right, you're adjusting the 5-year plan, we've got the numbers.
I don't think we can, sorry, through the chair, we can do that. I think we are required to have an actual dollar amount in here. What I could suggest is that we leave it at this stage and figure out the dollar amounts until tomorrow and have a revised motion with the accurate dollar amounts that we increased 2026 by, and bring that forward at that time.
So, Director Jackman?
Yeah, just wondering about procedure, because we could do along the lines of what Director Page was saying, that we leave the words up to the point we service S-186 to increase the 2025 account, blah, 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 and increase by prorated amounts the 2026 account numbers. And that's then create those prorated amounts.
Okay, that might be defined enough to meet the needs of our financial department.
So how about we refer this to tomorrow's board meeting when we have all the figures correct, et cetera, and be brought back to the board, because it's the same people that are gonna be voting on it.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of referral? Anybody opposed?
Refer, so we refer this motion and we have additional information that allows us to have a concise
That's right.
motion tomorrow. Okay.
Refer to board meeting with precise information as initially requested by Director Vanderberg. And Lockwood, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, how do we refer a motion like this from one committee to the board? So I'm looking for clarification, how that actually happens, because we haven't actually dealt with it. So this is basically would be a new item on the board agenda.
Good question.
The simplest may be if you approve as is, and then we have a corrected motion with the appropriate numbers tomorrow at board meeting. I don't know if that's, might be from process perspective the cleanest, and I don't know if Stuart is on, but.
Yeah, and that's a good question.
Stuart is on.
Chair. Chair, if I might suggest perhaps you just table the item till later in the meeting and staff can develop some wording before then.
Okay, we'll postpone it till later in the meeting. All
So moved.
Seconder. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you. I knew we'd get to a resolution sooner or later, of going around in circles. So it's postponed till the end of the meeting and we'll bring it back up. Will that give you an opportunity to adjust the figures?
Not me, but Nathan maybe.
Hey Nathan, you've got your work cut out for you. Director Jackman, go ahead.
I move the second recommendation as stated.
Okay, and a seconder? Director May? Okay, discussion. Looks pretty clear. No discussion online? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Director Hanegraaff, did you want discussion or were you opposed?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I'm just old and slow. I was in favor.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so we've got that one moved, second and carried. And item 3.4, it is for information only. We've dealt with that item at West Subregion and it was brought in for a joint resource recovery for information only. And going along with item number 3.5, again, information only. It was dealt at West Resource Recovery on Monday. And now we're moving on to, before public time, we had two late additions. And the number one addition was discussion on the acceptance at the RDCK Otishenya landfill of 50 to 75 tons of carcasses possibly infected with avian influenza disease. And we'll start with information provided from staff on the process that got us to this point.
So, the process started with receiving a notification in late November from CFIA, maybe in support from provincial institutions or Ministry of Agriculture. We were contacted about the potential of a need for a avian flu infected flock of animals. We didn't get much information over the course of December. Beginning of January, we had a bit better information, size of flock, potential disposal volumes, the discussion about the need of a disposal permit, which we do in cases like this. So we reached out to Ministry of Environment to obtain a approval for the disposal of this material. And around that time, the process came to a somewhat of a grinding halt in regards to the opposition to the call and the need for a court decision around this process. In the meanwhile, the process carried a little bit on in regards to the general operational preparations if we would get the material, which is account establishment and the general procedures if and how we would accept these materials and what landfill and what preparations would be required, what notification periods would be required. So the general activities that we do when we have special materials that we need to accept and that we need to prepare for, and our contractor needs to be prepared for. So that's what happened in the following months until I believe yesterday we got the notification that the court decision was made and that there's an actual intent to dispose the materials at our Otishenya landfill. And that's where we are sitting right now with this case.
Yeah, thank you. Before I ask Director Weatherhead to open with the discussion, just a comment on this. I think all the directors here were inundated with a lot of emails and concerns from residents from all over the regional district and possibly other parts of the province regarding this ostrich issue in Edgewood. So Director Weatherhead, do you want to open up the discussion?
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, first of all, my sympathy goes out to the Esperson family. This has been a very trying several months of dealing with this. I began advocacy in the first week of January. And Karen Esperson, the co-owner, is, fully cognizant of the powerlessness I've expressed in my position as a rural director through RDCK that, this is not in our jurisdiction and that all I could do would be to advocate through MLAs, MPs, even the MLAs, it's not within their jurisdiction. So the depopulation of this, of these herds, this flock, this is not actually a political discussion that we can have. It's not within our jurisdiction. And we're not to be, we cannot cross that boundary. So, and I have been assured by MLA's offices and MPs that, the involvement, awareness and advocacy is, it has been quite widespread. So the dialing it back to the landfill discussions, which is what this is about now, is just that, the questions around, how the hazards are mitigated to assure safety. I felt that with our landfill tour of Otishenya on Monday, that was you know, was not at all planned. It was planned just as a landfill tour, but I found that the you know, in discussing the potential of this, how is this done, and staff have been very, very thorough in all, you know, putting, you know, my mind at ease that this facility is well suited and has been made well suited, and that we are mandated to take in this type of disposal. So if there's any other questions around how that is, but other than that, I'd just like to make that statement.
Thank you. Director Pendergraft, sorry, not Henry. Excuse me, this is you know, a really tough issue, and I lost a lot of sleep over this. So pardon me if I'm a little bit not sure. The Director Pendergraft, you had your hand up?
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
But you know what? Can I just briefly say, because chat has been disabled, I have to attend a medical appointment and will have to leave briefly. And I don't typically, you let someone know through chat. I don't know how to do that with chat disabled. Sorry to sidetrack things.
Yeah, Chair, I've got my hand up. Sorry.
Just for everyone's information, we had to shut the chat down because it was used for messaging here that were not directly related to the meeting. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Director Pendergraft, I'm aware that you had to leave at 2:00 or whatever, and this is why I went to you for the second comment. If you have any comments, then you can leave at 2:00 and not feel being excluded to comment on this.
Yeah, well, okay. I live very close to the Udashenya landfill. For anyone that doesn't know that already, it's not quite my backyard, but it's very close. And you know, I share the concerns raised by Director Weatherhead and have empathy for this family and their business and all that entails. But at the end of the day, I don't think when you have a landfill, you get to pick and choose what goes into it. So yes, I would prefer to see the birds not killed at all if they are in fact healthy and don't pose a risk to any of our communities. It's a really emotional issue, I think, for a lot of us, and I'm confident we'll find a way to advocate on behalf of our residents, but at the same time, we're bound, I think, as operators of a landfill to accept materials to that landfill.
Thank you, Director Pendergraft.
Yeah, Chair, I had my name in chat.
Okay, I think chat is disabled.
It's disabled.
I've got my hand up, Chair.
Okay, so we see your hand up, Director Davidoff, so we'll go to online there. Director Davidoff, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is a really highly emotionally charged issue. And I know, like Director Popov, I mean, it's on all our minds. And the key thing is that for me, the only way that I could process this without making an emotional decision or not getting into any of these things. My question is, and I would like our legal people to answer it, can a BC local government refuse accepting animal carcasses due to a Health Canada ordered cull? And I need that answer to help me deal with this. And I've done a bunch of research. I've circulated to all the directors. You have it. And the answer is not perfectly clear. I know in emergencies, orders could be made forcing us to do things that we may choose politically not to do. So I would like us to obtain a legal opinion on whether or not we can refuse accepting animal carcasses due to a Health Canada ordered cull, and I'm making that motion.
Okay, so I would prefer that you hold that motion till we had an adequate discussion by the other directors, then you can make that motion. And if we get a seconder, we'll have a discussion on that motion.
Chair, if there was a seconder, I mean, we could defer discussion on the motion if there's a seconder, and then let everyone else speak and then come back to the motion. I'd be okay with that.
No, I would prefer to hold your motion. This is a discussion. We'll have our discussion, and then you'll have the opportunity to make that motion, and then we'll have a discussion on your motion.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I see another hand up there, and I don't recognize the person that's got the hand up. This discussion is for directors only. When we get to public time, public will have an opportunity to comment at public time. So the name I've got in there is Jeff Pilsner. Yeah.
Oh. I suggest we go to the two directors that have their hand up, not to public now.
Yeah, the public, you'll have your time to make your comments during public time. This will come after our discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got Director Vanderberg, you had your hand up a while ago before I went to Director Hanegraaff. And then I've got Director Lockwood, Director Bogle, and we will continue on after that. Go ahead.
Thank you to the chair. My question is directed to staff. You did speak about obtaining a disposal permit approval by the province, by the feds. Not sure how that happens, but of course it's a process that you have to go through. My questions are around the limiting future liability. So regardless of the material that's brought into our landfills, is there a requirement to ensure that we have appropriate description, testing, knowledge of that waste before, and is that part of that approval process? So that, for example, the chain of custody should have those ingredients or those elements, including testing that shows what that waste material is. And so I'm wondering, are we comfortable, confident that whatever waste material that we bring in has the appropriate chain of custody information, that in the future, then all of a sudden we aren't told, well, as the nature of this waste, you now need to do X, Y, and Z. So that's so my question is around limiting future liability.
Through the chair, I can speak to some degree. So the temporary authorization we have to accept this material specifies the RN for managing it at the landfill. There will be other requirements for CFIA and whoever transports it. And that's not within our realm, but it all needs any handling, transportation, storage does require containment, and there's specifications in hazardous waste regulations and this authorization that speak to that. And then they need to be buried immediately with a half meter of soil. And then it has to be marked. There's GPS coordinates where it's located, and that record needs to be on site, available to anyone that comes on site.
If I may follow up, I understood your question as well to concerns about future liabilities in regards to environmental impacts. The material we are receiving is animal material that's not foreign to coming to the landfill. The material is possibly infected with avian flu. Viruses are not a contaminant, if you want to call it that has a long-term impact. Viruses have a limited lifetime. There is no indication that we have anywhere landfill leachate reaching any potential receptors there is no pathway that we can identify or accepting avian flu material is in any form creating any form of longer term liability. Important is that there's no access to other animals, which is established through a bear fence and is established through a significant cover, immediate cover, plus the plastic bags if you also want. But the essential piece is the minimum of 0.5 meter, typically exceeds 1 meter of cover. It's the same style how we deal with asbestos waste, and it prevents access for any vectors to get at that material.
Thank you.
Just quick supplemental, is it possible to get a waiver from the appropriate regulatory agency that waives our liability for the future on this? Because we see through history that what was regarded as okay today comes back and haunts us tomorrow. Just a waiver, just wondering.
What would be the specifics of a waiver like that? We are saying that we will never be held accountable for avian flu exposure to anybody in the proximity of the landfill. What would that look like? I struggle with that, right? The attendance to our last Britannia landfill visit will know we accept their septic waste. It's clearly material that is carrier of bacteria and viruses. We may, because we cannot fully control that, accept as part of the waste that we get biomedical waste components or something of that nature. We will always have certain elements of syringes or materials in there, even if the official disposal way is a different one. Hospitals have their control mechanisms. So landfills are by definition carrier of materials of similar nature. I don't know why avian flu would be any different from materials that we already accepted.
Thank you. This is a discussion, and thank you for that conversation.
Thank you. So we'll go to online again. Director Vogel, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, Manager Wolf has already answered my questions in his answers to Director Vanderberg. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Director Lockwood.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few things and thank you for the last few people that have asked some questions, because it's answered some of my questions. As we just heard, our liability, and I realize it's a totally different thing from HB, what we're talking about spending thousands of dollars on testing grounds and all of that kind of stuff. And we know that stuff changes going forward. I've learned more about ostriches than I ever thought I would in my lifetime. I thought they were a beautiful bird, and that was as much as I wanted to maybe go in that learning. I am concerned that the provincial or federal or both government is laying something on us local government that is not in our mandate, as Director Weatherhead had said, that we're taking the brunt of the court's decision, that they're mandating us to do this, although in our bylaws, we state that we don't accept different things. And if it was wild animals, and I, as I had said to staff at one point, if I found a wild animal and didn't know that it had avian threw it in my garbage, and it just went to the landfill and just got picked apart, we're not stopping any of this process. We're being a part of a process that is with animals that are 25 plus years old, and we're not talking about the same thing as a chicken or a duck or a quail or something like that doesn't live that long. We always talk at the RDCK of how much we are in leading edge on what we do and what we learn, and be in front of the rest of the province, because we've done stuff much bigger. And I feel like we're not getting ahead. We're not doing that here. We're not standing up and going, wait a minute, just because the provincial or the federal government has said that we must do this, that we need to push back on this. I think that, yes, there's millions of birds that have been killed across this country over avian flu. But this is our opportunity here in the Kootenays to learn from a dinosaur bird that may discover something that may help stop the avian flu, and may actually be something that we're worldwide known for doing, because we've got this little tiny area in the whole country stating that we've got, I don't know, 400 birds, or I don't honestly remember how many birds that they can do some testing on. But 20 of us are tasked with digging a hole and accepting burying these 400 birds. And I want to make a stand that I think that it's wrong that we just accept that. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lockwood. Since you mentioned Director Weatherhead, I'm giving Director Weatherhead to respond to what you've mentioned there. Go ahead, Director Weatherhead.
Thank you, through the chair. Just to note that that was a misquote. I actually said we are mandated to take this, not the opposite. So, and that this is not a political discussion. Depopulation, this is not a political discussion within our jurisdiction to be making any claims about the health of the birds, because it's not actually, we are not the experts on this ourselves, by all means. And it's also just not within our jurisdiction, as it would be with the Canadian and through CFIA. So, and yeah, we're all feeling the pain of this situation. And there is, I am told there is no funding going toward the study. But again, that's not even in our jurisdiction to be really commenting on the particular study of this species on this front. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Director Weatherhead. So I've got
supplementary, please, Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Director Lockwood.
Very quickly.
We have all the directors here, and everybody wants to make a statement.
Yes,
and
very
we keep
quickly.
repeating our statements, and I know how upset we all are. And I agree with your upset and everything else. So most of some of us are upset also. So go ahead, Director Lockwood. Please do not interrupt me while I'm speaking. Go ahead. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say what you have to say. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would have been done by now. I'm just going to say we have a lot of things that are not in our mandate, like housing that has been put into our mandate. So I guess that's all I'm trying to say is we continuously get stuff put into our mandate that is not in our mandate, and we need to stand up to that. And that's all I'm trying to say. Nothing against what Director Weatherhead. I understand what she was saying, and this is not against her in her speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Lockwood. Your input is greatly appreciated. So, Director Zelznick, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, through the chair. I just want to applaud Director Lockwood for her bravery for speaking out. That was amazing. It does tear everybody up. I know the family well. And you got 400 birds there. How the hell can you say each one is infected? And if they are, show it, prove it before you bring them to the landfill. And if they are infected, you can't put them in a landfill because animals will dig it out and spread it. The proper way is to dig a hole and burn them. And I hate to say that, but you're doing it all wrong. We need the facts before you can actually put something in a landfill. Show us that each one is infected. If they're not, we shouldn't be doing this. So that's it.
Thank you, Director Zelznik. So any other directors online or in the room would like to enter the discussion? Oh, Director Casely and Director Main. Go ahead, Director Casely.
Yeah. I'm a little confused about, we don't regulate anything that we put in our landfill when we have a bylaw that states quite specific on certain things that we put in our landfill. Is that not correct, or am I misreading our bylaw?
So staff.
That is correct.
That is correct, according to staff. Okay, so do you have a supplemental on that, or?
No, because it's not going to go anywhere anyways. And I'd just like to thank Tom Zelznik and Mayor Diane for their comments.
Thank you. Director Main.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. It's an incredibly stressing situation for the entire community and surrounds, as well as for the farmers, for the birds. I just was in a meeting this morning, just before I drove down here for this meeting, with our new MP, Scott Anderson, and he is actually was, when I left to come down this way, he was leaving to go up to Edgewood, and he stated that he was prepared to try to intervene by getting some UBC researchers involved in this. So there's things being done by representatives of other orders of government. Yeah. Dale, I wish this was not happening, period. I think, I'll probably speak for all of us. If we are directed by a senior order of government to undertake something, and we contemplate refusing to do that, we would have to have very, very profound discussion around making that decision.
Thank you, Director Main. Any other directors in the room would like to enter the discussion? Okay, so I see Director Bogle now has his hand up. And for the first time, Director Bogle, he didn't get the opportunity to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, just on a couple of the comments, I've pulled up the CFI, Canadian Food Inspection Agency's response, and it is states right in the report that that's the timely depopulation of domestic birds on infected premises, not individual bird by bird checking. So, and as far as the UBC research, they have already done quite a bit of research on disposing of hazardous waste, that as well as on the provincial and federal government websites. But yeah, it doesn't take any of the emotion out of the decision, but at some point we'll have to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bogle. So any other directors that want to enter the discussion? Looking around the room and online.
Can I make my motion, Chair?
Yeah, we're getting there, Director Davidoff. So before you make your motion, the reason that I had Manager Wolf read the staff position, where we are at, how we got there, and why we're there, was to let everybody know that we have the authorization, and that is our mandate to do that. So I'll go back to you, Director Davidoff. You can read your motion out.
Thank you. The motion is to obtain a legal opinion on whether or not a BC local government can refuse accepting animal carcasses due to a Health Canada ordered cull. And I sent this to Uli and Stuart, so you have the wording and sent it to all the directors. You have the research that I did. I think I know the answer, but I need it confirmed by legal.
Okay, so I'll get Emma to read the motion back to make sure we've got it on in our minutes. Go ahead.
To obtain a legal opinion on whether or not the local government can refuse accepting animal carcasses due to a Health Canada ordered cull.
Okay, so is that your motion, Director Davidoff?
Yeah, it's close enough. I think the essence is there. I think everybody knows what this is. So if there's a seconder, I'd like to open.
Okay, so do we have a seconder to our motion?
I'll second that motion, Bogle.
Okay, so we have a seconder. So now we'll go to discussion. Director
Yeah.
Weatherhead, go ahead.
Chair, if I'd like to open, please.
Either open or do you want to close?
I'll close. That's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Director Weatherhead.
Thank you. I just would like staff to please weigh in on that particular question.
Can you speak up a little bit? So
I would just like staff to please weigh in on that particular question. They may have some answers already on that front.
Okay, so yeah,
Chair to
good.
perhaps manager.
Go ahead. Do you have?
I actually would like us to read that again, because Director Davidoff said he sent it to me as well. I don't see it in my emails, but I was a bit distracted because of that. Oh, okay. That's the question. Okay. I would say that we are likely allowed to refuse accepting the materials, but there is likely a legal function where the ministry can order us to accept the materials. I don't have a legal opinion on that. That is based on my best estimates of what I've seen to date. I have dealt with it in other jurisdictions with other materials. We do have, in these cases, we had the chance to say no, but the ministries that are dealing with situations of communicable diseases have had the ability to issue an order. But again, this is somewhat guesswork. This is not something I have a legal opinion on.
So thank you. Supplemental?
Yeah, supplemental to that, through the chair to staff, have we accepted avian influenza infected birds at any of our landfills prior to this?
We have. I believe about 8 months ago or so, we had an infected flock of turkeys as well in the valley, in the Slocan Valley. At the time, the Nakusp landfill was at a lower filling state. We accepted it there, same process, same MOE, permit requirements, and accepted the material there.
Thank you.
Director Jackman, did you?
I would like to speak to this recommendation. I don't want to go out of turn.
Yeah, you're next. The three hands are up for our public.
Okay, thanks. It's hard to read some of the names from here. So the motion asks, for the legal opinion, if it's due to a Health Canada ordered cull. If we're going to go to anyone for legal opinion, it should go beyond a cull. It could be either a cull or dead stock due to disaster. Because the bigger question in my mind, and we've had this debate with provincial reps in the past, is bigger examples such as a breach of the dikes in Preston, where you could have several thousand dairy cattle and beef cattle drowned. Or you could have a BSE outbreak in that valley. And several thousand cattle would be a much different issue than the hundreds of ostriches. So this, if it's gonna go to legal, it should be a more broad question. And it should consider not just what some people are arguing over ethical or emotionally challenging issues, but the practicality of impact on operations. Creston landfill being a fraction of the size of Luciania, for one. Creston landfill having a serious issue with grizzly bears, continually trying to undermine the perimeter electrified fence, etc. So if we go to a legal opinion, let's make it worth our while for more issues in the future. It's not about this. And having said that, I can't see our asking for a legal opinion have any strength whatsoever in terms of deferring what may inevitably happen in this case. But I'm good with the legal opinion if it's broad-based and it talks about our real operational issues over and above the emotional or what some people feel are ethical concerns. Those concerns, yes, they need to take to the federal government.
Thank you, Director Jackman. Director Davidoff, you obviously heard Director Jackman. Would you be willing to accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yes, absolutely. And I think if we're going to get a legal opinion, let's get it for all the reasons that we may be facing in the future to help us with our determination. So yes, friendly. So Director Jackman, what words would you add to the end of the motion? That would be great for us to hear.
So, okay, thank you, Director Davidoff. Director Vogel, do you accept that as a seconder? Do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, so Director Jackman, do you want to reword that motion to reflect what you suggested?
Yeah, and I think we can just add on as Director Greenwood suggested. So following Health Canada ordered cull or other dead stock arising from natural disasters.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure we've got that.
You can put such as flood or fire because both of those are real risks for us.
So I'll ask you to read it back.
Okay, that staff retain legal advice on whether or not local government can refuse accepting animal carcasses into Health Canada ordered cull or other dead stock arising from natural disasters such as flood or fire.
Okay. So we have, that's a friendly amendment.
Chair,
We
may
have a
I
mover and a
ask,
seconder on it. Now we'll go to discussion. Go ahead.
may I
would
ask
like-
to have it put in chat because it's really hard. It's very
That's closed.
mumbled. I know it's disabled, but is it possible to undisable it and put that in chat? Because I couldn't hear half of it.
It could be emailed to us.
Emailed.
Okay, so can you email that to all the directors?
And it may take me a couple minutes.
So in the meantime, we'll go to Manager Wolf and then Director Hewitt.
I will have to ask for clarification. So we won't have the legal opinion for your board meeting tomorrow. That's impossible. So the question is the intent then that we halt any interaction with CFIA and related to the call until the next Joint Resource Recovery Committee or board meeting to have the continuation of that discussion based on the new legal opinion?
That is to me, Chair.
Well, I think it's.
You made the last amendment or the friendly amendment to the motion. Go ahead, you or Director Davidoff.
Well, and from my standpoint, this is a big question that's essentially independent of the issue that's ongoing. I wouldn't suggest staff stop talking to anybody they feel they need to speak to at this moment. This is a bigger issue for future, in my mind, because we're not going to see an answer to this, as General Manager Wolf said, for months, potentially several weeks at least.
So Director Davidoff, as the initial mover, you heard the response that staff had and Director Jackman had.
Yeah, I think I made mine a little narrower. Director Jackman's asking for something bigger, but I think we need to leave this with staff to get the opinion, which they can get fairly, like, this is an emergent issue for us to deal with because we are all like I said, this thing's not going to stop. It's going to go on. So staff, this is an emergent opinion which we can obtain fairly quickly in time for us to make a decision. And the problem is that we can't wait for another joint resource recovery meeting or a board meeting. This would instruct staff on what to do. And I'm going to leave it up to staff after they get the opinion to follow the opinion. That's what the intent is.
Thank you. So you're asking for an immediate response from a legal department, and we'll have to consult with Stuart. Are you on the line here? Do you want to weigh in onto this?
Through the chair, what's the specific question on this? Because I heard Director Jackman say the expectation from him is that we are not ceasing conversation with anyone. Yet Director Davidoff said the expectation is it wouldn't come back to the committee or board. We would just follow what the instructions were in the legal opinion. But I guess my comment on the process is that we don't know when CFIA might try to bring the birds to the landfill. And if that happens between now and getting the legal opinion, what's the direction from the committee?
So I have a chair. Can I respond to that?
Yes, go ahead, Director.
Yeah. So the key thing is that you saw what I emailed all the directors. And that's a couple hours of research. The key thing is we could get an opinion on the narrow issue here on this particular cull. And can we refuse it or not? And I think the answer is clear. It just, I'm not sure if it's staff has said you're not sure, but I don't think it would be that difficult to get something immediate to help staff. Then the second part would be the dead stock issue. And that's something we could wait for and, get a more fulsome opinion. But lawyers can provide an opinion in a hurry if we need it. And we know that. So we need this immediately to help staff. That's it. That's who's to help.
Thank you, Director Davidoff. Does that clarify to you, Stuart?
Through the chair for now, yes.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table and we have a seconder on it, and Manager Wolf, do you want to make?
I'm still not clear because the legal opinion refers to an order call, meaning the regional district at that point has refused to accept the material under a normal process and has received an order from higher orders of government. That's the situation we are getting a legal opinion on.
No. No. Health Canada's ordering the cull, not us. So we are just dealing with the narrow issue of refusing acceptance. Can we or can't we? That's it.
So this is acceptance, normal acceptance, not an ordered acceptance.
No, it's an Health Canada ordered call, which is what we are facing right now. That's all.
Thanks for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Director Hewitt.
Thank you. Just another minor amendment. In the information that Director Davidoff forwarded, it clearly states that it's not Health Canada who issues the order. It's Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So we're naming the wrong agency in the resolution.
Yeah, that's a friendly if that would help.
Thank you. Can we make that change in their resolution? It's CFIA rather than Health Canada?
Is this an official amendment? Would you be seconded? Or
It's a friendly amendment.
It's a friendly.
We read the wrong terminology.
Yeah.
Okay, the director. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. So listening to the conversation, obviously emotionally charged situation I see lots of historians now, is what I'm hearing is a conversation about do we have enough best practice policy work done to deal with what might come of a disaster, maybe natural or not. avian flu is coast to coast at this point. The viruses and the mutations are out there. We have brought this kind of stock, as was said by staff, into the landfill in recent months. This is a biological component, and as the carcasses, for lack of a better term, go through their natural cycles, contained within the double-sided poly that they have to be, at some point, the risk of that particular load that will be brought in will diminish to near functional zero. And the real question is, does it change the risk profile of the landfill itself, given that there are other loads of the similar nature already in the landfill? So that is the real question that some directors are attempting to reach for. So at this stage, unless we are directing staff to develop fulsome policy pieces around how we deal with that dead stock in the future, and wherever it may come from, what we need to worry about and consider in the future if it's not already been done, that's the work I think we would set ourselves upon, being informed by the attention this is getting. But the legal opinion piece, I think we are reaching beyond our role in that sense, and I don't think we're functionally bringing less risk into the facility than we have already accepted recently. So at this stage, from what I've heard, I'm not in support of this particular effort.
Thank you, and I see we have Director or Chair Watson with us. Go ahead, Chair Watson.
Hi, everybody. So a couple things. I wanted to just make sure the board was aware, or the committee was aware, of the extensive conversations the executive was involved in last week to work through our role, responsibilities, what we can and can't do. Highlights from that are mostly this table wading into the health aspects, not our realm. That is not something we should be doing. Number two, if we're going to seek a legal opinion, but staff hasn't, first, just to name, this isn't a decision, that is a board decision. The only reason why it's in front of us right now is because we've gotten hundreds of emails, which is why I'm still here, because my email was about to crash. And so it's now in front of us, although it's been an issue for months and months. It's an operational decision. It coming to our table is because we've politically gotten involved. So I just want to clarify our roles here. In doing so, if we're going to seek a legal opinion, by all means, if that's what the table wants to do, you can do that. But there is this big gap between, we know it's only a couple of days and staff have nothing to back them. If our table is expecting staff to wait for that legal opinion, you must also be moving a motion that says politically, we're stating do not accept these until we have that legal opinion.
No.
Because Director Davidoff, please don't interrupt conversation. It's not best practice. Thank you. All I'm pointing out is that you're putting staff in a really difficult position of waiting for an opinion that's likely not going to come during the time in which they are going to be in this position. And I'm trying not to put staff in an awkward position. We would not be involved in this if it wasn't for all of that. So staff has been dealing with this. They understand the regulations. They understand what they have to do. I don't disagree with getting a legal opinion, but we're well beyond the time in which we should have done that. Because we know they're going to be doing it any day now. So the executive background is quite extensive. We worked a lot with Director Weatherhead. We met with staff last week. And we were originally going to have a motion that indicated we would not accept. And it was based on policy. It was based on precedent. It was the fact that we don't have a policy in place around mass calls. It was not on the health. And it was on the ability to support staff, and the follow-up would be what Director Page was just indicating, which is there is no policy in this. It's simply follow the regulations, which were mandated to do this. So that's some of the background, and I just wanted to provide that. I'll stick around for the vote, and then I got to go back to a state lawyer conversations.
Thank you, Chair Watson. Director David, if you were going to make a comment?
I think we should have obtained a legal opinion a long time ago. Full stop. I'm going to stop with that.
Question.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Director Weatherhead.
Just in the finale, we have whether this goes to our landfill or not, or whether it's stopped or not, we have no say in the culling of these ostriches. Is the bottom line. So it's on health. I get where this is coming from, but I cannot support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, any other speakers on the motion?
Lockwood online.
Lockwood, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I have to agree with Director Davidoff is that we've known that, but when the question was asked and it's been out there in the public that there were that the RDCK was accepting these birds, I was told myself that there was nothing in the records that we were accepting these birds. So to say that this should have been here a long time ago, if we were aware, if in January that was what the answer was, is that we were given the go ahead to accept these, then possibly we would have been asking for that legal opinion then. So we have been put in a position that we did not ask for. And now we need to halt that because we're at the 19th hour and that's not our fault. That is not the director's fault that we are at the 19th hour when we had information back in January, knowing that this was going to come to us and that that is an emotionally charged situation. So that's, I am in favor of having this. And so we are legally here what our lawyers say. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've had ample discussion on this. We have a resolution on the floor. So I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Sorry, Chair, can you please read the motion between email and conversation? The motion is kind of confusing.
Okay, Emma, will you read the motion for us?
That staff obtain legal advice on whether or not local government can refuse accepting animal carcasses due to Canada Food Inspection Agency ordered cull or other dead stock arising from natural disasters such as flood or fire.
Okay, that's the motion that we're voting on. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Online? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Motion's carried.
Call for opposition.
Vote. Anybody opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. And any online?
Yes.
This one.
This one.
Okay, just one online. Motion is carried. Okay, so we're there and we've done the discussion. Director Cunningham, we have your edition of Health Canada on there. So can we read that out? As chair, the preferable, if you have a late item, put it in writing, submit it to the chair and the secretary, so we have it in writing, rather than going through the whole process of trying to wordsmith it during a meeting. So can you read Director Cunningham's motion that he had? That we adopted? Or that we didn't adopt, that we
I just had it as an item heading, agenda item. I didn't have a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The motion is rather simple,
Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sorry, yes. The motion I have is rather simple. And if I may, with a little bit of preamp, the court has decided that in fact the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, has the power to do what they're doing with regards to the cull of the ostriches. That was the court decision. Now, in fact, so that's that. And CFIA said, well, we want those ostriches dead. And that's the end of that. However, my motion is that the regional district, I'll read it very slowly because I'm sure we need to change it, that the regional district of Central Kootenay communicate with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to request reconsideration on behalf of the vast majority of the residents of the regional district regarding the ostrich thing, regarding the culling of the ostrich, and we can fill that in. This is why I said, okay, and if I may, I would like to also, of course, with copies to go to, of our resolution to go to our MP, our MLA, and the office of the Prime Minister. That's if it gets passed. And mainly, in other words, this is an action we're taking on behalf of our residents. We know the vast majority of the residents are really opposed to this thing. The ostrich, if I may, yeah.
Give a second.
We're gonna have a second, and then, sorry, I'm public.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we'll read your resolution back before I ask for a second. Go ahead.
I might need some additional wording, but so far that the RDCK communicate with the CFIA to request reconsideration on behalf of the vast majority of the regional district in regard to the ostrich cull.
I'd Edgewood.
The regional district, that's right.
I'd Edgewood.
Sorry.
On
behalf of the residents.
The regional district, because they come.
Okay, so then don't put an Edgewood in there.
Sorry, I just really missed that. Could you say it again, Emma? Sorry.
Can I confirm if this will be that staff communicate or that the board will communicate?
The board communicate.
The board, okay. So the board communicate with the CFIA to request reconsideration on behalf of the vast majority of residents of the regional district in regard to the ostrich cull in the RDCK. In Edgewood?
Yeah, we can say the Edgewood ostrich cull.
Okay.
It's okay.
Sorry, I'm
But as I
trying to
said, my wording is not complete. If I may, but sure.
Okay, so now we've got the resolution. We need a seconder to that. We have a seconder. Now it's on the table, discussion.
Thank you. If I may, yes, indeed, we don't have power in doing to do anything with regard to this, even though we all have. I think the majority of us have our hearts in the place that said we don't want to see these ostriches put down. And in fact, the only way to do that would be to get the CFIA to change their mind. And the way to do that may be through the offices of the Prime Minister, because he's new, our MPs and our ML, other orders of government. Well, that said, and the reason we want, okay, and then can be put into letter, is that in fact, that this ostrich group is a very select population, right there. And so therefore, it would, you don't need to worry about them missing out with 200,000 other chickens, or anything like that. It's a very select population. Apparently they've lived, and perhaps, in fact, they have developed some kind of immunity to this. Those kinds of things we could test, because I'm thinking that, listen, maybe they could come up with some kind of vaccine or material they could put in the food to prevent birds from getting, other birds getting the flu. I don't know. In any case, that's the gist of what I want to say. I've sort of wordsmithed the beginning of it, and I'm quite willing to allow staff or anybody else who's better at this than I am to continue.
Okay, so you have the opening, and I've got two speakers. I've got Director Watson and Director Jackman, and Director Vanderberg. And go ahead, Director Watson.
Thank you. I put my hand up before the motions, but I will speak to the motion. I just want to reiterate the process of taking the animals is an operational thing. It is not a political thing, which is why that we were not informed of any information or communications in advance. There would be no reason for us to know those operational details. It's only here because we've had 200 emails in the last 12 hours. So just reminding us of that. This is not staff's fault. What I will say to the motion is a couple things. Number one, this has been through the courts twice now. Our request for asking for reconsideration sounds pretty you know, a nice thing to do, but we do need to consider that if you read thoroughly through all of the communications, not only what we're receiving, but also what is being said through various sites online, there are farmers that are concerned. There are other sides to this story where health is an issue that we are not experts in. We are not health experts. And when we ask for reconsideration on something that could have implications of hurting or harming others, we not only put ourselves at liability, but we put the whole district at liability. So I think we need to be really clear about what we're asking for here. If it hadn't already been to the courts, if again, this was at the beginning of the game, that's a different story, but it's been through it twice. And to ask for them to reconsider it is to say, we don't trust the courts. And by all means, get into the system, get into what CFIA is doing. Not our realm unless you want to be health officials. So just be very cautious over what you're doing here, because it is on us if there is a problem, if there is a disease, if there is something that gets out. And my first question to staff when this came to my attention was, what are the health parameters around taking these at the landfill? Because I did want to understand, what does that look like? We know we're heavily regulated, but there's definitely health and safety parameters that are absolutely critical for dealing with any of this, which was my first question to staff. They know it, and they've been in communications to determine how that will be achieved by both ends. So just want to provide that component. But this is a risk on either end.
So do you want staff to comment on that? Comment on that?
If staff would like to, they're welcome to.
I believe we have said what we can say, right? We have established a process. We have followed until now a process that we have completed before with other livestock incidences where we had to dispose, in that case, turkeys. There may have been others before. We have assessed both the risk as the time of acceptance and disposal and proper disposal methods. We cannot identify any risks on the environmental side that was brought up that would relate to a potentially influenza infected material. From that perspective, we cannot identify anything that would, from an operational environmental risk perspective, prohibit us to reasonably say no. The issue that you are dealing with is, as was pointed out by directors, an emotional. It is one that is very specific to specific animals. Unfortunately, we lack as staff the capacity to judge if these animals need to be put down or not. That is CFIA. These are veterinarians. These are specialists in the field. We are, like we do in other communicable disease cases, assist the provincial and federal agencies in controlling potential outbreaks. If that is reasonable, we cannot judge a staff, and we don't want to judge. We are not in a position to do so. I would not want others to tell us in the field that we have expertise to just tell us what we should be doing. That's not our role. And so that's where we are as staff. We have followed process. We have established proper procedures. We have assessed risks. And from that perspective, we cannot reasonably say you should not accept this material. And that's where we are.
Thank you. And the supplemental?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that you know, staff doesn't have that. There's no, again, this is in front of us because it's gotten political. We can politically say we do not accept this, or the board has said we do not want to accept this. That keeps us from being in the health realm where we don't have the expertise. And so I would recommend that this motion puts us in a much higher liability range. Whereas if we made a motion that simply said we do not accept them and we're seeking a legal opinion, then staff has the backing and we've stuck to our lane. So that's what I'm going to stick to.
If I can, from a staff perspective, I want to make clear too, I have in various previous cases and positions dealt with outbreak and material, infectious material coming to landfills. And in all cases where I could identify a potential risk, have refused from our perspective the acceptance of the materials unless certain conditions were met. That was transport risks. In that case, it was about a swine issue. We have had discussions about BSE and disposal of BSE infected material, and how and if prions as a very resistant piece are a risk to our facility and future downstream uses of the water that the leachate ultimately in a treated form goes, and if the treatment can effectively eliminate that. We have dealt with materials at the Crescent landfill in various forms where CFIA was involved and where we had certain conditions that we needed to meet and where we asked CFIA to take certain control measures. So I just want to make clear that we, from a staff perspective, do ask these questions and ensure that where we have expertise and concerns, that we raise them and ensure that safe procedure is met.
Thank you. Want another supplemental, Chair Watson?
Just that I appreciate all that staff has done historically. I'll leave it there.
Okay, Director Jackman.
Thank you. I can't support this recommendation as it's worded. Couple comments to that effect. One, I can't agree that it is the vast majority of RDCK's residents because we have not polled them. I see some 200 emails that I have received. That's indicative of a high level of concern, but certainly I can't state vast majority. I appreciate the comments that there are other farmers who would be very concerned if an outbreak spread. And maybe we're not the Lower Mainland where it becomes hundreds of thousands of animals, but I know in the Crescent Valley, there's chickens in the order of 10, 15,000 or more in a single facility. So I don't think we can use a term like vast majority when we haven't any real understanding of the bigger picture and concerns. If we were to put forward something around science, some kind of investigation, research, some kind of unique opportunity, that might make more sense. But in the 200 odd, and I'm guessing 200 because it's pretty hard to count today, this morning, emails, I see MP Rob Morrison copied, if not on all of them, on most of them, he's the direct recipient. That is where the strength of that advocacy lies. I'm reassured to see that residents are telling the members, member of parliament and the MLAs, I see them copied in many, and that's where I do expect action to be taken. But I don't think this recommendation, as worded, I can't support it because I don't believe we understand enough to stand behind the words of the recommendation.
Thank you, Director Bogle. You had your hand up?
Sorry, I was a little trouble unmuting. I can't support the motion either. If you look at the mandate of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, it states right in it that their decisions are based on science and other considerations are looked at. So I personally know I am not an expert, and I have had dealings with the Food Inspection Agency in my previous career, and all of them are the professionals, whether we like their decision or not. So I can't support the motion.
Thank you. Director Weatherhead.
Thank you through the chair. In one of my conversations with Ministry of Agriculture and Food, who had reached out to me when I first began advocacy, he made it very clear to me that there's just hasn't been any funding for this type of study. And so, good on Universal Ostrich for trying, and they have been in touch with UBC. And as it was noted earlier today, they've also been working with the MP, Scott Anderson, who is in their jurisdiction, And he and also MLA, I can't think of his name, Steve, Morissette has also, those two bodies of government are on this, and they have assured me up and down, that this is, you know, that they're on this, and in fact, MP is stating to the Espersons that he will, he would like to go and take the UBC, whatever has come out of the UBC, to stall things, and, you know, so if he's acting on that, I feel that is the right level of government. I don't feel it is really within our jurisdiction. I'm sad about everything, but I just feel, we don't want any liability risk for Richmond District either come back on us, and I don't know what staff can comment on liability, but if they can comment anything on any type of liability risk, that would be helpful as well. Thank you.
And thank you, Director Whitehead. Before we vote, I just want to let all the directors know what we decide here is a recommendation to the board. You know, we still have to review it at the board. So there'll be another opportunity to have another vote on this. Seeing no other, oh yeah. You know, we are going around in a circle, saying the same thing over and over again. So if something new, greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Director Vanderberg, and then closing, Director Cunningham.
Thank you through the chair. I did have my hand up. You did acknowledge me, and I appreciate that. But, and as it turns out, I agree with the comment, a vast majority. It's not factual. And it's already been stated. Thank you.
Director Cunningham.
Thank you. Sure, yeah, and I can understand the comments made, and I'd like to point out, yes, we can change vast majority to a large number, because in fact, I don't disagree with what's been said around the table. However, what we're doing at this point is we're doing the same thing as we've done for our residents many other times. I can remember the first time way back in 1986, where we said that the West Kootenays was going to be an atomic-free area. What power did we have to do anything? Nothing. However, it was a statement of how people felt at the time, and we made the statement and went for it. What we're doing here at this time is, do we have the expertise? No. Are we going to be challenged? Actually, no. What we are saying is that we think we would like to consider, and we want them to know, we want Ottawa to know that this is a problem. And I'm not disagreeing with the science and how 200,000 chickens don't matter as much as 500 ostriches. I don't think that's the question here. The question here is, we have a large number of our people who seem to feel that this is a bad thing, that cow is a bad thing, you know, and so therefore, this is a way in which we will get an answer from the CFIA saying that, listen, we've studied it, and this is what's happened, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. And that's really what we need. Now, perhaps my resolution was drawn up too quickly. As the other director mentioned, vast, it may not be a word. A large number is definitely a word, an expression we could possibly use. And as far as the district getting into some kind of liability, you never get into liability for expressing opinions and asking questions. This is not a liability question. This is a question, are we trying to do something on behalf of our residents that we feel they'd like us to do? And I think our residents would like us to go at least write a communicate with the CFIA and saying, listen, we're unhappy. That's all.
Thank you, Director Cunningham. So you're removing vast majority and changing it to?
A large number.
And to the seconder, it's a friendly amendment. Who seconded it? We had a seconder, I know that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is, okay. So make that change.
Is that a problem?
I don't remember.
No, so the chair, I understand the change has been made from a vast majority to a large number.
Yeah.
In case that was the second.
Okay, so.
Chair, point of clarification, can we get that emailed to us since we can't get it on chat? I've been waiting to see the actual, because it's back and forth, if it would be great to have it emailed so we can actually read it ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, can you email it to everybody? And we've been at this for quite a while. So we'll take a 10-minute break. 5-minute break.
Okay. Chair?
And we'll come back in 5 minutes, and it's 2:54, so we'll come back at
Sorry,
3:01.
point of order, Chair, you can't break in the middle of a motion. You need to finish the motion.
Okay.
For it to be delivered.
Okay, so we're waiting for the motion to be read out, to be emailed, so we'll wait. So let me know when you've got it. You're emailing it to everybody, Emma, are you?
I am, yeah, sorry, I'm just, I've got a lot of things open right now, I'll be 1 moment.
Okay, Director Lockwood, let us know when you've got it, and you can remove your hand then.
Thank you. I read it.
Call the question.
Okay? All in favor? 1, 2. Online? 2 in favor, opposed? Motion's defeated.
Thank you.
Now, we'll take a break,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be back at 3:05.
Good meeting there.
Wait, where am I?
Is there anything?
For the directors online, we've had our break and we're ready to go. So we're at, I need a motion to lift item 3.3 off the table.
So moved.
And a seconder. And an email has been sent to all the directors with the amended motion on recommendation number 1. Director Vanderberg.
May I move that amendment as I see in the email?
Yes, and a seconder.
Sure, for discussion.
We've got a second. Thank you, Roger. Now, discussion on that, and this is on the amendment and then on the main motion as amended?
Yes, it would be.
Yes, discussion on the amendment. Yes, Director Jackman.
Yep, thank you. So I thought if we're increasing part this year, part next year, that we would have seen a smaller number. The difference is that so this is September, October, November, December 1 year, and then January, February, March, April, 50/50, and the increase is $3,000. Is that what we write in is the whatever 3% annual increase? That's the difference there. Just to understand the numbers.
Through the chair, yes, there was an annual adjustment, an assumption of 3% for the last few months, but the 2025 number was underfunded, so the 2026 number was also underfunded. So that is what we would need for this year and next year, and the rest of the financial plan will be adjusted once we get the contract details.
And I have another question, but it's not particularly on the amendment, so I'll hold it till we're back to the main one.
Okay. So on the amendment, trust everybody got the amendment. We've moved, seconded, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing no opposition, carried. On the main motion.
So question on the main motion, just for further clarification, if I might. So we're buying ourselves time because this is a big issue potentially for the sub-region. And it doesn't start in September. We start now looking at these broad alternatives. So if we find we have a better path to follow, can we pull back on that 8-month extension and say this terminates December 31st? There's always provisions to terminate a contract, or are we anticipating we will be holding this? People online can see the general manager nodding. So we should expect this will hold through to March 31st, April 30th next year. We may not be able to get a better solution sooner, maybe save some money.
If I may?
Yes, go ahead.
The answers would go on through May 31st. That's what's stated here and was negotiated. And the contract would be firm, and that's part of, we want certainty, a contractor wants certainty. Of course, I think that's give and take. For us, that provides us, as pointed out, with the certainty to have a decent time amount of looking at the various and some of them complex options that are before us, and trying to do as good as possible costing on the various options and risks and other things that are associated with it.
Fair enough, thanks.
Thank you. So on the main motion, as amended, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. Now we're on public time, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands up for public time. The first one is Jeff, and then Connie, Farrell, Cindy, and SIMG. I don't know who that is, but for the public, we're getting close to adjournment. So keep your questions short, and we'll try to respond. Go ahead, Jeff. Hello, Jeff, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Sorry, he's coming in 5 seconds.
We're a process. Yeah, will be good to know where they're from.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. identify yourself and what community you're from.
Am I talking now?
Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh.
Identify yourself, please.
Okay,
so
yes,
the
I will.
directors know who you are and what community you're from.
I'm from New Denver. My name is Jeff Pilsner.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
So I'm going to be really brief here. I appreciate all of the energy that you fine people are putting into this decision. I'm proud to be a Kootenaite. We're a special breed, may I say. My feelings as a citizen of this area is I feel that we're being pushed to do something that isn't our choice. It isn't our decision to make. And it's putting you into a very awkward position. And I don't think it's fair. But that being said, my question is, like, what comes back to me is, what if the antibodies in the ostrich eggs really do have the power to cure the diseases that are coming down the pike? Your kids, yourself, your grandkids. Like, this is a very important decision, and I don't think that these birds, and from what I understand, they haven't even been tested. It has not been confirmed that they even have the disease, and yet the government, the federal government, is not willing to do their due diligence. It's just easier for them to kill them all. And
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
ask each of you, please, and I'm going to end it at this, think of those who you love. And it's about doing the right thing. And I'm asking you, please, please, do the right thing. And that's it. Thank you for letting me talk.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Your point is well taken. I don't believe we can answer a technical question because we're not technical experts at all. And I believe you've heard our discussion and you've heard the comments and discussion that the directors made. And it is a very emotional situation for everybody. And thank you, Jeff. Connie, you're next.
Hi, thank you. My name is Connie Shields, and I'm actually in Alberta now, but I have a very strong allegiance to this area. And I'd first like to ask, what was the original date that the RDCK was approached last year regarding this? I thought I'd heard November of 2024. Do you have the actual date? And the reason I question that is because at the beginning of this meeting, I noticed you opened the meeting with a land acknowledgement, and I thank you for that. But I'd like to ask, do we fully understand what the acknowledgement means in practice? And I wonder if the people know whose ancestral lands that we're actually on. To be clear, this is the unceded territory of the Sinex Nation. So with that in mind, I ask, was the Sinex Nation, and if so, who from the Sinex Nation, has been consulted about the disposal of 140,000 pounds of what has been tagged diseased animals on their lands? And what environmental studies have they been presented with to make an informed decision about whether they want this on their lands? And while we're on the topic of jurisdiction, I just want to put it out there. Public health orders do not override local authority. CFIA cannot compel you to do it. The country is not under the Emergencies Act, and we should have learned that from COVID-19 when policy dictated that the local authorities, what they did, and now the courts are being filled with lawsuits against those who complied with what they assumed were mandates. These are not mandates, they are suggestions. Federal cannot compel you in your jurisdiction what to do.
Thank you for your comment. I don't know if we can answer your questions directly, but I had staff read out November of 2024 when RDCK staff was contacted by a representative from the BC Ministry of Agriculture and Food. And as far as the consultation goes with the First Nations, I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't know if staff will have an answer on that.
Can we find the actual date that you were?
Let me finish, please.
sorry.
Staff, go ahead, respond.
So first of all, I don't have the exact date before me unless Amy has it. Second question about the consultation. For a situation like this, I don't know if consultation is required, and if so, it would be from CFIA side and provincial side to conduct that consultation.
Okay, I believe we answered your questions, and we have to move on to the next resident that has a question. Farrell, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for including me. I just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, and I see you're from Area G in BC. Go ahead.
Yes, I live in Area G. Dr. Cunningham is my director, but I'm currently the last 3.5 months here at the farm. So I'm going to just spell out some facts. Not a single one of these birds that are destined to be culled have been tested. Not a single one. They are infected by suspicion of being infected. Of 2 dead birds reported by a neighbor who saw them lying on the road, waiting to be disposed of. Those birds were tested, dead birds. Not a single living bird that's been around for now 3.5 months has been tested. In terms of I just want to go back to what Manager Wolf said. There's no bylaw. You have bylaw 2961. It's actually in your minutes for prohibited waste, and section 22 of 2961 describes exactly that you can have prohibited waste. Go read it. But that's not the point. Somebody mentioned the chain of custody. You have to be very careful about what you're going to be transporting down through the Slocum Valley, all the way to, yes, they'll be double bagged or whatever they have to be, 400 healthy birds. And I'm going to use the word healthy birds because not a single test has been done. And if the farm wants to get remunerated, they need to be tested every single one before they go, and only healthy birds get remunerated. So this is another issue. Canada doesn't have an Animal Welfare Act, but we do have a Criminal Code of Canada. And I would suggest that every director read sections 444 to 447. I'll repeat that. The Criminal Code of Canada, sections 444 to 447. And you will be complicit in the murder of 400 healthy, sorry, it's emotional, farm animals. If you bury these animals and not a single one of them has been tested to contain the H5N1 virus, you are complicit in the murder of farm animals. If you want to ask for a legal opinion, go and ask for your legal advice for that, because that is the emotion, unfortunately. The chances are there's not a single sick bird on this farm, and they haven't been sick. I've been on this farm. I have a permit to go into the farm because sometimes the farmers are not here, and I need somebody to drive the feed truck around. And I'm not sick, and neither are they. And I can just tell you that the results from the tests done in Japan, Dr. Sakamoto proved that the H5N1 antibodies are in those eggs from 5 years ago. Frozen egg yolks that were taken 5 years ago showed they already had been exposed by then, but they've recovered. The catastrophic event that killed the dinosaurs.
Okay, well, thank you, Farrell. I think we've got the gist of your conversation here, and that is beyond our responsibility for testing the birds. That is the responsibility of the organization that is responsible for testing the birds. I'm repeating myself.
But you'll be burying.
We have to move on, Farrell. We've got your suggestions and everything else, and we have passed the motion for a legal opinion. And thank you for your input. Cindy, you're next.
Hi, thank you guys for taking me into this discussion. I'm calling from Victoria, BC. Okay,
and you're not a resident of Regional District, is that correct?
That's right. I have family Castlegar, and I have family in Trail. My parents are there and my brother is there. Okay, so let's just be clear. There's no confirmed disease, as has been stated. These birds are not sick and they have not shown to pose any threat to any animal or public. I understand with discussions here today that some local farmers may be afraid, and I don't dismiss those feelings, but fear alone is not a reason to destroy life. If there was a real risk, where is the transparent, evidence-based veterinarian report? Why haven't experts or sanctuaries been allowed to access or offer alternatives? We're told the land may be contaminated. If so, then I ask, why are we not relocating the birds to clean grounds? Why is mass killing the only response? We're also here that this council does not have decision-making authority in this case, but with great respect, you do have a voice and you have a very powerful one. You can speak on behalf of your residents. You can contact higher levels of government. You can pass a motion and you can refuse to participate in the culling by rejecting the disposal of the carcasses on ethical, environmental, and public interest grounds. Now, I understand the call has been ordered and we may be down to the wire, but even at this late hour, there is still a choice. Do we remain silent or do we speak up against a needless, irreversible act? And I leave you with this. If the land is unsafe, why not move the birds? If the birds are healthy, why are we killing them? And if the call is wrong, why should our city, our provinces help carry this out?
Thank you for your input, Cindy, and most of what you've said is the responsibility of the federal parliament and the CFIA, who have given jurisdiction to. So your MP would be the appropriate person to basically approach that on your behalf. We are doing the best we can. We've asked for a legal opinion and we're moving forward. Thank you. The next resident I have is Shirley, who says it's an Area H resident. Identify yourself, please, Shirley. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I am about to move to Area H, Pathmore. I'm near Castlegar. First of all, I'd like to applaud Director Lockwood and Cunningham. And I know that thousands are applauding with me. So to quote Director Lockwood, she said, 20 of us are tasked on burying these birds. Well, no one envies you, but let's turn this around. 20 of you have been put in a very special position where you can become heroes, and you can become heroes to your residents and to the world, because whether you know this or not, and maybe you don't, the world is watching. First of all, there's a question of health. I'm not going to go into whether they're healthy or not. However, Kelly did say for future liability's sake, in regards to landfill, we need appropriate testing. I couldn't agree more. Mr. Wolf said, and I quote, that you're going to be receiving possibly infected with avian flu. You don't even know if they are infected with avian flu. We see the birds, we see them to be healthy. So please get them tested beforehand and put that one to, put it to rest. Everybody needs to know one way or the other, are you going to be burying contaminated matter and getting yourselves into trouble over that? Or are you going to be burying healthy birds and getting yourselves into trouble over that? It's not both ways. And as far as farmers being worried, Chair Watson was saying that the neighbors and people are very concerned about the spread. Well, let me tell you that farmers are indeed very worried. They are worried that the CFIA is going to show up at their place and unannounced and decide to just cull their animals on the suspicion of a disease, which is exactly what has happened here at Edgewood. So that's where the farmers are worried. Please protect the farmers. I guess I don't really have a question, but I really hope, I so sincerely hope that everybody will stand up together, because there's a lot of us standing up with you, and do the right thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shirley, for your comments. Greatly appreciated. And we had a quite lengthy discussion on this, and directors were given the opportunity to comment. Some of the comments are very similar to yours. And the healthy birds issue is something, again, I will mention this again. It is the Parliament of Canada that authorized CFIA to go forward and do the inspection and the call. So this is where most of the direction should be directed. And the residents that are concerned about that, talk to your MPs and our Prime Minister. Thank you. So the next speaker I've got is Sarah Gull. If I pronounce it wrong or whatever, tell us where you're from, Sarah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually am a Creston resident, but I'm living in Durham currently, looking after a sick parent. I wonder if I think I might do something a little bit different. So you are deferring to the questionable authority of CIFA. And but now, though, that you have accepted these animals, I need to know your maintenance plan on how to deal with the pathogenic potential around what happens when 140,000 pounds of flesh decomposes. Let's just assume then CIFA is right. We all know they're not. We know this is a political thing, but we have to then operate according to the law. So let's say they're right. So let's assume these animals are infected. First of all, we look at a disease like salmonella. We know 33% of ostriches carry salmonella. A municipal waste landfill in Krakow, Poland, found that salmonella was present in 57 to 88% of soil samples of buried animals. We also know that decaying flesh at this level is going to bring massive blowflies. Weathervane claims it's going to be covered. That will not stop blowflies. That will not stop massive rodent population, which are known vectors to transmit disease. Blowflies, in particular, are known carriers of avian influenza. We know that they are carrying avian. So if these birds allegedly have avian, blowflies are going to be everywhere. And what will that mean for livestock and humanity if these birds are allegedly what you say they are? I know you, I'm saying CIFA. We also know that a 2015 chicken call was found to actually infect groundwater with avian. So there needs to be a big maintenance plan in place here. You need to ensure that the temperature of these poor creatures in this containment bin, and I'd like to know what containment bin you're going to contain all this leachate in, because this is dangerous stuff. It needs to reach 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 3 consecutive days to kill pathogens. So I need to know your plan to ensure even decomposition, to ensure this pathogen kill window. You're dealing with 140,000 pounds. So you're going to need to use windrow turning, and somehow you're going to have to assure us that these pathogens that these are allegedly on these animals is being monitored. So who's going to do that? Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to monitor it? And also the mental health of residents. Has anyone considered, we've all been through COVID. Our mental health is shattered. Now you are doing this to the mental health of residents, including children who have written books trying to save the ostriches. So do consider the mental health, especially with the odor. So I'm sorry if I spoke long, but I just wanted to give a slightly different angle, because Director Wolf is wrong when he says there is no risk posed. There is documented risk.
Well, thank you for your comments, and we're far from scientists regarding this. And what you said, you mentioned again, and I will repeat it again. It has to go back to the Parliament and the CFIA. But I will ask for a comment from Manager Wolf on disposal of the culled ostriches.
Thank you, Director. May I add one more thing? In 2004 Biden administration, the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron dictate. And the Chevron dictate said that change authorities like yourselves must defer to authorities in times like this. That got overturned because it was found that authorities since 1984, when that was implemented, have become political, biased, and simply not true. So I know this is in the United States, but this was in August 2024. But this is going to start infiltrating to Canada. So perhaps you guys could be on the forefront to bring something like destroying the Chevron dictate, which needed to go to the dustbin, to make sure that we do not do blind deference to authority. This is dangerous. And COVID has shown this. Everything has shown this. So I beg of you to not defer to authority.
Thank you for your comments, Sarah. And
thank you.
We have no jurisdiction over the courts. This was before the courts, and
I understand.
the appeal process has been done. A ruling has been ordered. So I will go to Manager Wolf to respond to your other questions. Thank you.
And I will do that very briefly. Comments was made about salmonella and pathogens. This is a landfill that's full with thousands of tons, not kilograms, pounds, thousands of tons of material that carries pathogens. That's the essence of a landfill. You have salmonella because you are disposing food waste. That is a complete normal thing in a landfill and is dealt with regular covering at the landfill and keeping other vectors out as much as you can. So specific to bears and things like that would be easily digging through the cover. But that is the essence of landfills. That is the essence of disposing organic waste. It is entirely normal. We are receiving, i.e., biosolids. Biosolids is the waste product from wastewater treatment plants, by definition, full of pathogens and as well salmonella in some cases. So that is certainly not any issue different from what we are dealing with hundreds of tons on a daily basis at a landfill.
Oh, thank you, Manager Wolf. And we have to move along. The next
And I
speaker
do
would be,
understand that.
Thank you. No rebuttal, please. We have to move along and give everybody an opportunity to speak, not to concentrate on one speaker for any length of time. We've actually already exceeded our public time. And I have one more speaker on the list here, which is BC Force. Please identify yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you very much. My name is Emil Begin. I was the search and rescue managers for the Invermere Forest District and electoral area F and G in the East Kootenays, in the regional district of East Kootenays. So I am a registered forester who's now since retired and moved away from that. I'm sure that you are all aware of Freedom of Information requests and the requirements for FOI responses from credible authorities to be 100% accurate. Are any of you familiar with the CFIA's Freedom of Information response they made to Fluoride Free Peel Canada, Christine Massey, where the CFIA has stated in their own documentation, which is available on the website that I can provide, if the chat was available, I did provide it to the mayor who spoke. The CFI has confirmed they have no evidence avian flu exists. That's in the CFIA's own words from 2022. So here we have an agency who is now culling several hundred birds that has confirmed they have no evidence avian flu even exists. In your judicial review or your legal review by lawyers, I asked you respectfully to have the lawyers look into Fluoride Free Peel Ontario, Christine Massey, to get the Freedom of Information responses from the CFIA, where they specifically state there is no avian flu virus that they can confirm exists. So trusting authorities who mislead and misdirect it would be considered a pretty serious error in due diligence. So thank you for your time. I know it's difficult. I've worked with the ministry, with the government for over 40 years. I've worked in search and rescue for over 9 years, body recoveries, domestics, floods, forest fires. I appreciate and respect the challenge, but if your due diligence does not include the Freedom of Information responses from 2022 by the CFIA, then due diligence failures become something that you all own, all 20 of you. I did send the link in an email to Mayor Lockwood not too long ago. I respect and appreciate the challenges you were all dealing with. My suggestion as a question, are you aware of it? And as a suggestion, if you're not, please apply it and use it, because if the CFIA is lying about there is no virus, and they're lying that the ostriches are affected by viruses, they're caught in a lie of their own making that resolves and absolves all of you and puts the ownership and responsibility and accountability squarely and fully back on the CFIA, experts and staff. And yes, I have connected with Parliament and with MPs on all sides of the realm, because this is a nonpartisan public health requirement that you are all being challenged to deal with, and responsibly and respectfully. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. And in response, I believe I mentioned it before, that the Parliament of Canada has authorized CFIA the ability to do what they're doing. So the best direction that I can recommend to anybody that is talking about the ostriches not having the Asian flu, or they have heard they don't have the flu or whatever, should be directed to the Parliament, to our Prime Minister Carney and his Agriculture Minister. In response to your concerns or whatever, we have discussed that quite literally right around the board table, and I really appreciate your comments. So at that point, I don't have any more speakers, but I do have a letter that was or an email that was sent to me as the director or the chair of West Resource Recovery. And the questions that were on there is, on what date did the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, first contact the RDSCK regarding the disposal of ostriches? Well, my simple answer is they did not contact us. It was the Ministry of Environment from the province. So Ministry of Agriculture. It was the Ministry of Agriculture. And then the next question is, what potential disposal options for the CFIA proposed for RDSCK involvement? Now, did CFIA propose any options?
Sorry, say that again.
Options for disposal. Yeah, CFIA. You know, from what I understand, we had no communication with CFIA.
Not until recently.
Until recently. And what financial compensation, if any, has CFIA offered for the disposal process? Well, the disposal cost to bury the culled animals is $166.50 per ton, the same as mixed waste.
And the additional charges, if I may, in that regard, we have a special handling charge that we charge for materials that require immediate response, like asbestos waste. That is applied in this specific instance because we need to do immediate covering and solid covering of the materials. And then because there were some actions in the forefield that required additional administrative work, we have requested that we are able to charge an additional administrative charge where required. So that's the three charges that would apply.
Okay, well, thank you. And that ends our public time. It has been extended from 15 minutes to almost a half an hour. And I believe that was ample time for people to ask questions. We don't go back for second questions or anything like that. You have the opportunity to ask your question. This is not a debate. This is the concerns expressed by the residents. The concerns have been expressed, Sarah, and I thank you for your concerns. So we will be moving on to a motion to adjourn. So moved. Seconded? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Adjourned.